Chapter 727. Gu Mengmeng turned to leave, but the beast deity sighed and said in a low voice, "No father can watch his own child perish together with others." After Gu Mengmeng woke up, she was in a good mood and even felt that the sky had turned bluer. Stretching, she took the cup of water that Elvis handed over and drank a mouthful to moisten her throat. Then, she smiled gently and said, "Thank you." Elvis poked Gu Mengmeng's head with his finger and said, "Saying thank you to me?" Gu Mengmeng thought about it and agreed. Elvis had done so many things for her, which one of them could be repaid with just a few simple words of thanks. She wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and kissed him on the cheek, then hung herself in Elvis's arms in an affectionate manner. Elvis enjoyed Gu Mengmeng's long-awaited intimacy very much. His Xiao Meng was getting better day by day. Although she was still different from before, at least when facing him and Leah, she was not much different from before. That was enough. As for her attitude towards others, whether she wanted to benefit the world or destroy it, he didn't care, as long as she was happy. "How long did I sleep for?" Gu Mengmeng asked. Elvis replied, 2 days and 1 night. "Where's Wabi? Still squatting at the entrance?" Elvis nodded and said, "Yeah, he hasn't moved at all. Let's go and take a look." Elvis didn't say anything and just carried Gu Mengmeng out of the cave. She had a good sleep and her body was well rested. Without any trivial matters to worry about, and knowing that Snake was indeed living a good life, although her situation was weak and awkward, and Snake's domineering way of chasing would only make her run faster and further, but wasn't it a good thing for Snake to create some small trouble like this for him? His life was too plain and boring. No one dared to defy his rule and it became lonely after a long time. It was good to let her create some trouble for him in another space-time. Curling her lips, Gu Mengmeng suddenly reached out to sneak an attack on Wabi from behind. Wabi's reflexes were very sharp and he dodged in a flash. This kind of pressure was very familiar. It was dangerous but not murderous, so Wabi knew from the start that it was Gu Mengmeng. But he never does such sneak attacks. How embarrassing. Wabi's face was full of disdain. Gu Mengmeng shrugged her shoulders and said nonchalantly, he said, "He is him and I am me. He asked me to live my life in the way I want. So, I like sneak attacks. What do you think? Hit me if you dare." Wabi rolled up his sleeves and stood up. "Let's fight then, who's afraid of who?" Gu Mengmeng pushed Elvis away and stepped forward. She opened her arms wide and said, "Come on, go ahead and fight." "I don't fight back. But if he dies, you have to explain to the beast deity yourself." Actually, Wabi really wanted to fight with him for the first time in a long time. But looking at Gu Mengmeng's fearless expression, he didn't dare to make a move. No matter how much strength she had in her body was simply too small and looked very fragile. In the past, he dared to fight with her because he knew he couldn't beat her. But now, she was clearly not fighting back or dodging. Wasn't she being shameless? What if he really broke her? How was he going to explain to Snake? Chapter 728. Wabi reached out to grab Gu Mengmeng's arm, but thinking of Snake's guarded and warning eyes, he finally opened his arms wide to block Gu Mengmeng's path. "You are not allowed to leave. You have to tell me, how is he?" Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "I thought you were not going to ask." Wabi glared at her. "I have waited here for you for 2 days and 1 night, how can I not ask?" Gu Mengmeng was not annoyed. She sat cross-legged on the ground. Elvis knew that Gu Mengmeng did not want to talk about Snake in front of him, so he turned back to the cave to tidy up the bed Gu Mengmeng had just slept on. Wabi sat beside Gu Mengmeng. After a moment of silence, he said, "I just want to know if he is doing well over there. Is there anyone to fight with him?" Gu Mengmeng looked up at the sunlight. "He is doing very well. He is still the arrogant Snake Highness. He has a high status and is powerful. But there doesn't seem to be a Wabi training partner like you there. But no one dares to be presumptuous in front of him either. But don't worry, he is not lonely. Because over there is another me, accompanying him. Wabi was stunned. He looked at Gu Mengmeng. You can accompany him? Then can I do the same? Can you bring me to see him? I want to fight with him. Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing. She patted Wabi's shoulder and shook her head. I am just the messenger of the beast deity. I am not the beast deity himself. I don't have such great abilities. Wabi remained silent for a moment. Then, he looked up at Gu Mengmeng. What if I find the things you want? As a reward, can you help me beg the beast deity to let me accompany Snake? Gu Mengmeng thought for a while and nodded. I can try to help you, but I can't guarantee the results. Wabi nodded seriously. All right. Isn't it just the kiss of the ocean and love of the sky? I will find them for you. When the time comes, remember to fulfill your promise. Gu Mengmeng nodded and Wabi left without looking back. After Wabi left, Elvis walked out of the cave and hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms. He came all the way here to seek a beating and you just brushed him off like that? Gu Mengmeng leaned into Elvis's arms and said, the weather is too dry and he has been left here to dry for 2 days. His skin is about to crack, I can't bear to do it. Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face and did not say anything. The problem of water source, he and Leah could definitely solve it. I haven't visited Qixuan for 2 days. He must be worried sick. I'm going to see my son, Gu Mengmeng said. Elvis did not object and only sent her to the border of Saint Nazir's territory. When Gu Mengmeng walked out of Cole's cave, she suddenly felt that something was wrong. She quickly walked into the cave and found that it was empty. Cole had disappeared, Qixuan had also disappeared, all the daily necessities were gone. It was obvious that this was an abandoned cave. Gu Mengmeng clenched her fists tightly and glared into the distance. She gritted her teeth. Cole. Gu Mengmeng searched inside and out for a long time but Cole did not leave any traces behind. When she returned to Saint Nazir helplessly, Leah and Elvis were already waiting for her in the cave. Elvis frowned when he saw that she did not look well. Chapter 729. After Gu Mengmeng explained the situation at Cole's side, Leah smiled and tapped Gu Mengmeng's little head. Don't worry, Cole only brought Qixuan to a place with sufficient water. Although he is a stray beast now, he is used to living a luxurious life. It is impossible for him to endure hunger and thirst. Really? Gu Mengmeng was skeptical. Leah nodded his head in assurance. Based on his understanding of Cole, it was definitely true. Lee's words were always right. Thinking of this, Gu Mengmeng felt much better. Caressing Lee's face, Gu Mengmeng frowned. Why did you lose so much weight? I slept for 2 days and your dark eye circles have already appeared. Lee's heart warmed when he heard that Gu Mengmeng was concerned about him. But he could not bear for her to worry, so he purposely exaggerated his emotions to show off his morbid flirtatiousness. Wrapping his large tail around Gu Mengmeng's arm, he also put on a cough cough cough, come and show some concern for me look. He said in a slightly sorrowful tone, the original water source in the territory is not enough. I have been waiting for the next 2 days to find a new water source, but there is no progress at all. Look, my legs are so thin from running, I need Gu Mengmeng's massage to feel better. Seeing that he still had the mood to put on an act, Gu Mengmeng knew that although he was a little tired, he was definitely fine. So she gave him a push and snuggled back into Elvis's arms. Was it not enough in the previous years? Seeing that Gu Mengmeng did not buy it, Leah stopped fooling around. Straightening his expression, he said, in the previous years, there were only 3 females and over 100 males in the tribe. But this year, we have 19 females and over 300 males. So. Gu Mengmeng held her forehead. She had forgotten about the problem of the population increase. Gu Mengmeng remembered that Sandy had told her before that water was scarce during winter. Even females could only ensure basic drinking water. Bathing was out of the question for them. Males basically did not touch water anymore. They would just drink beast blood to replenish their water supply during hunting. It could be seen that Saint Nazir's water source was especially scarce during the dry season. Gu Mengmeng held her forehead and thought for a while, before asking, other than that stream and the lake that I transmigrated from, are there any other water sources that we have? Elvis shook his head and said, there's still water in that stream. Leah has already ordered all the males to hurry up and make wooden barrels to store the water. But there's a limit to how long the wooden barrels can store the water. In a few days, even if the water hasn't been drunk, it will all be gone. But right now, there's no better way. The wooden barrel was made by cutting off a tree and then hollowing out the center. Although there were no gaps and the entire barrel was one piece, the problem was that the wood itself had leakage problems, so it couldn't be used as a long-term storage tool. Gu Mengmeng thought for a moment, then stood up and said, let's go, accompany me out for a walk. Elvis and Leah did not hesitate, no problem was more important than Gu Mengmeng. So what if there was no water source? Even if they had to rob from other tribes, they would not let Gu Mengmeng go hungry. As for the life and death of others, what did it matter? Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng while Leah followed beside him. After walking out of Elvis's territory, Oriton and Ian followed behind. The basic equipment for a messenger of the beast deity was finally ready. Every year during the dry season, is there any place in our territory where the vegetation is not too affected by the drought? Gu Mengmeng asked. Lee's eyes lit up. He looked at Gu Mengmeng and said, you mean, aside from the topic, the frequency of the author's words today was a little high. I was afraid that you guys would not be used to it, so I specially mentioned it. Today's update has ended. Today's update has ended. Today's update has ended. Chapter 730. Sauter never lacks water during the dry season, isn't it because of that well? Gu Mengmeng continued Lee's sentence. Leah could not hide the smile on his face. How could I forget that you are the messenger of the beast deity? You can communicate with the beast deity and ask the beast deity to bestow us the eye of life. Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes. She was already numb to how the previous messenger of the beast deity named everything in this world with such Chinibu names. Fire was fire. Why did it have to be called Flame Demon? Why did it have to be called the Eye of Life? Elvis's body stiffened. He looked at Gu Mengmeng and asked, we can also have our own eyes of life? It meant that they had an inexhaustible source of water, and the dry season was no longer a season that tested the limits of their lives. Gu Mengmeng sighed and held Elvis's face with both hands, looking straight into his eyes. She said, I'm different from Wang Xiaoxin. I especially don't like those deliberately mystifying words. Let's be more normal. That thing is called a well, remember? Elvis held Gu Mengmeng's little butt with one hand and hugged her, while the other hand caressed the back of her head. He brought her little face to his mouth and gave her a deep, lingering kiss. His blue eyes were filled with pride and pampering as he said, you always surprise me. I don't even know how many more secrets you have. Gu Mengmeng's face turned red from the kiss and she mischievously sang, I have many secrets, I won't tell you, won't tell you, won't tell you. Elvis looked at Gu Mengmeng's happy expression and did not pursue the matter. They still had a lifetime to spend together and discover more of her little secrets. While Elvis and Gu Mengmeng were flirting with each other, Leah carefully recalled the geography of Saint Nazaire and said, there are 7 to 8 places in the territory of Saint Nazaire where plants would grow densely even during the dry season. Do you want to take a look at the nearest one? Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, let's go to the lowest place to take a look first. Gu Mengmeng could not explain to Leah and the rest why she knew such a strange technique. You might not believe it, but how could a girl who grew up in the city know how to dig a well when she was an adult, constantly running around in various places of work? This is a mysterious question, but the answer is very unique. Gu Mengmeng had gotten this knowledge from romance novels. A certain omnipotent goddess of war transmigrated to an unknown era and brought her mother, who was suppressed by her concubines, and her brother, who had a weak body, to become rich and sleep with beautiful men. There was some mention of digging a well. Gu Mengmeng's only wish now was that the great author was not spouting nonsense. Leah brought Gu Mengmeng and Elvis to a place with dense vegetation. As it was already the start of the dry season, the surrounding plants had more or less started to show signs of their leaves turning yellow. Only this place was still full of life and was covered in green. Gu Mengmeng nodded, then looked around. She broke off a thicker branch and stood it upright. It was taller than her, about 1.8 meters in length. She placed the tree branch flat and spun on the ground, crushing all the vegetation in its path into grass and mud. Gu Mengmeng clapped her hands and said, "Go back and get someone to dig according to the circle I drew." "All right." Leah responded and carried Gu Mengmeng from Elvis's arms. He pressed one hand on her ear and pressed her face against his chest. This way, both of Gu Mengmeng's ears were blocked. Chapter 731. How blindly did the people of Saint Nazaire worship Gu Mengmeng? He could probably learn a thing or two from this well-digging activity. Almost all the males and females in the tribe were here, all of them looking curiously at the circle of grass and mud with a tree branch. The 18 females stood closest to the grass circle and stared at it. No one knew if they could see anything from it or not. The males stood by Elvis's side obediently, waiting for his orders. After the battle with the stray beasts and Gu Mengmeng's unexpected outburst, there were no longer any first-level orcs left in Saint Nazaire. Those who could stand here now were considered to have strong fighting abilities. Elvis instructed everyone to dig according to the circle drawn by Gu Mengmeng without any explanation. With just this one order, the males all revealed their sharp claws and started working with their families as a unit. Actually, they did not have to dig very deep, about 3 to 4 meters would suffice. But there were no shovels or excavators, so they had to rely on their hands, so the difficulty was quite high. She ordered the males to do things, so as compensation, Gu Mengmeng naturally had to take care of the females. Luckily, these females were Gu Mengmeng's fans, so they pestered Gu Mengmeng for no other reason than to tell her stories. But this time, they did not want to listen to Yusijine's story. They wanted to listen to Snake's story. Gu Mengmeng's experience in the Snake King Valley had been spread like wildfire, but there was no fixed version. The more it was spread, the more outrageous it became, making everyone itch for it. It was a rare chance, so they naturally pestered Gu Mengmeng to listen to the real version. Gu Mengmeng could not resist everyone's enthusiasm, so she started telling the story from the second she opened her eyes in the Snake King Valley. How did she enter? She could not say, because she had promised Ian not to let others know that she had climbed on his back. When she talked about how Ellie wanted to kill her, all the females looked at Gu Mengmeng with reddened eyes, as if they were about to cry. They said angrily, if not for the messenger's kindness in taking her in, she would have been snatched away by the stray beasts. How could she be so vicious? She was clearly a complete female, but still disguised herself as a half-orc female to sneak into the tribe. She did not have good intentions from the start. I was wondering why she kept going to Sandy's house, so she went there to sow discord. Luckily Sandy did not fall for it, or else. Gu Mengmeng listened to everyone's comments and did not give any response. Hate Allie? Far from it. They just had different standpoints. She could only blame herself for being too weak for not being able to protect her children and even sacrificing herself. She had almost caused Elvis and Leah to suffer the backlash of the mating contract. Moreover, he was already dead, so whatever grievances he had should be in the past. Gu Mengmeng felt that it was not worth fighting with a dead person, because no matter how much you hated her, you did not have the ability to snatch her back from the hands of the King of Hell and kill her again. The topic was a little off topic, and the females were in a heated discussion. There were 19 females here. It was comparable to an agricultural wholesale market. Gu Mengmeng did not have the intention to pull them back to the main topic of discussion and let them scold Ellie with righteous indignation. It wasn't until a cheer came from the male digging the well that the discussion of the females came to an abrupt end. Gu Mengmeng stood up and walked to the edge of the well. She looked down and smiled. If anyone were to casually enter to collect water, it would affect the sovereignty of the territory. Saint Nazaire was won back by Elvis and Leah after risking their lives. Even if she could not expand the territory, there was no reason for her to give it away to others. Thinking about this, Gu Mengmeng lowered her head to look at the male who was still crawling on the ground and asked, "Is there a witch doctor in your tribe?" The male shuddered, thinking that perhaps this was the time for divine punishment. It didn't matter, as long as Shako wasn't implicated. Gritting his teeth, he nodded and replied, reporting to Lord Emissary, our tribe has a witch doctor. Chapter 733. The male lifted his head, looking at Gu Mengmeng in shock and confusion, asking if there was a witch doctor, not to sacrifice him to the heavens, but to throw the game. Gu Mengmeng's expression was indifferent as she continued, the witch doctor is a member of the clergy and is considered my subordinate. I allowed them to use my name to benefit the various tribes, but other than the witch doctor, anyone who entered Saint Nazir without permission would be treated as an intruder and be exiled and slaughtered. Furthermore, the tribe's right to collect water would be permanently revoked. Do you hear me? Yes, yes. I heard you clearly. The male kowtowed to Gu Mengmeng fiercely twice, then ran back with a body full of injuries. Gu Mengmeng sighed and looked at Leah and Elvis. She said helplessly, why did you make such a good well look like a murder scene? Elvis frowned and pursed his lips. After deliberating for a long while, he slowly said, what if you don't have enough water to drink after giving them? Gu Mengmeng chuckled and asked, is it because of this that you guys risked your lives to get water? Elvis nodded. This well concerns the lives of all the females in the tribe. The males must protect it with their lives. Gu Mengmeng leaned into Elvis's arms and asked, why didn't you tell me that someone came to snatch it? Elvis sighed softly and said, I don't want to annoy you over such a small matter. Gu Mengmeng smiled and asked, yeah, then if I don't know, are you guys planning to keep killing everyone who comes here for water? Elvis nodded solemnly and sincerely. Gu Mengmeng was speechless. Leah, why didn't you stop him? Leah shrugged. Why should I stop him? If they had come to beg me nicely, I might have been able to accommodate them. But since they want to steal and rob, we naturally can't let them off. Gu Mengmeng was also helpless. It seemed like there was no such rule in the beast world where begging for help did not exist. Whatever they fancied, they would snatch it openly. Waving his hand, he said, forget it, inform the nearby tribes to send witch doctors to Saint Nazir to discuss if they need water. If there are any more intruders, they will be dealt with in contempt of the divine authority. Yes, sir, Oriton answered and then left. He was the protector of the emissary, so it was natural for him to arrange such matters as conveying orders. Gu Mengmeng clicked her tongue and said, the ground is full of blood, it looks quite horrifying. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng back into his arms and kissed her little face, saying, I'll get someone to bring fresh soil from somewhere else to plow the ground. Gu Mengmeng nodded and followed Elvis and Leah back into the cave. The witch doctor was handed over to Leah to handle. Gu Mengmeng was happy to have some free time as she accompanied her 3 sons to sunbathe on a huge rock. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. The news of the Eye of Life in the Saint Nazir tribe and the messenger of the beast deity allowing the witch doctors of each tribe to collect water spread like wildfire in the beast world. To Gu Mengmeng, it was just a small matter that was not worth mentioning, but it raised her reputation to another level in the beast world, to the extent that it was like a fairy descending to the mortal world. One day, when Leah was organizing the witch doctors who queued up to fetch water from the well, a head suddenly popped out from the well. Chapter 734. Lee's sharp claws were already swinging towards that head, not to slice off his head, but to pull him out from the well. Blood could not be seen here. What would Mengmeng drink if the water source was polluted? But that head was very cautious. Once it saw Leah approaching, it immediately shrunk back. Then, there was the sound of water splashing, followed by the sound of water splashing. Leah frowned, feeling impatient. If he drowned to death in the well, the water in the well would all be polluted. Stepping forward, Leah leaned over the mouth of the well and looked down. A stream of water shot out from the bottom of the well. As fast as lightning, Leah dodged in a panic, but his face was still scratched by the water. A drop of blood dripped down from the side of his face. Leah frowned, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Mengmeng had praised this face many times, but it was actually injured by him. Looking again, when Leah looked at the mouth of the well, it was as if he was looking at a dead person. I want to see the messenger of the beast deity. A voice came from the bottom of the well, echoing through the emptiness caused by the sound amplification effect of the walls of the well. Who are you? Leah asked in a low voice. His tone was so calm that it seemed nonchalant, but the other witch doctors standing beside him were drenched in cold sweat, their hearts beating like drums, and they were terrified. The person in the well did not speak again, only the sound of water splashing could be heard. His meaning was obvious: if the messenger of the beast deity did not come, he would monopolize this well, and no one could hope to get a drop of water from here. The well was very important, but Gu Meng Meng was more important. Leah would definitely not allow this aggressive person of unknown origin to get close to Gu Meng Meng. So, this matter was suppressed by Leah. The witch doctors from the various tribes did not manage to get any water, but did not dare to say anything, waiting for Leah to think of a way to get that fellow out of the water. But, how long could he hide it? Gu Meng Meng found it strange that the water supply at home was starting to run out. By right, the well was located on the underground water vein, so it should not have dried up. Why was there no water at home? When she brought the children to Sandy's house to play, she realized that there was no water at home too. Sandy's mouth was so dry that it felt like it was going to explode, and he lay there weakly, not wanting to move. Seeing that Gu Meng Meng had arrived, he forced himself to sit up. You don't have water in your house either? Sandy nodded and said, Colin went to the well 2 days ago, and when he came back, he didn't look too good. I asked what was going on, but he didn't tell me, only saying that there was no water for the time being. Gu Meng Meng, do you know what happened to the well? Did you run out of water? Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, I don't know what's going on either, but Leah and Elvis are behaving strangely. The moment I mentioned the well, they immediately changed the topic, and it was obvious that they were intentionally stopping me from going over. Sandy tugged at Gu Meng Meng's arm and asked, why don't we dig another one? I'm so thirsty. Gu Meng Meng patted Sandy's little hand and said, why don't you accompany me to the well to see what's going on? If there's really no water, we'll dig another one. Upon hearing that there was water to drink, Sandy's eyes immediately lit up. Without a second word, she stood up and pulled Gu Meng Meng towards the well. Then, Gu Meng Meng was a little shocked. Who the hell had dug up Saint Nazir like a whack-a-mole game area? This. Sandy was also very surprised. She looked at Gu Meng Meng and both of them were speechless. Chapter 735. Gu Meng Meng let go of Sandy's hand and told her to stay where she was and not move. Sandy nodded obediently and stretched her neck to look at Gu Meng Meng. Gu Meng Meng walked to the side of the well and waited before patting the huge rock. If it was in the past, she would definitely give up. But now, with one slap, the huge rock flew far away and landed on the ground with a thud, creating a cloud of dust. Gu Meng Meng stuck her head into the well, and before she could see anything clearly, a stream of water shot out. Thanks to Snake, Gu Meng Meng's body reacted faster than her eyes, and she dodged it with a slight tilt to the side. And in that brief glimpse, the person at the bottom of the well also saw Gu Meng Meng's face. After a moment of silence, a cautious and probing voice came from the bottom of the well. Are you the messenger of the beast deity? There was someone. Gu Meng Meng's first reaction was that someone had fallen into the well. Was this a scene from the Qing dynasty? Throwing someone into the well and pinning him down with a rock? Destroying the corpse and erasing the evidence? But that was not right either. Whether it was Saint Nazir or the surrounding tribes, who did not treat this well as their lifeblood? There were so many ways to kill someone, who would destroy this well just for one person. Who are you? Gu Meng Meng did not answer but asked back. Slowly, a head rose from the bottom of the well. His bright and radiant eyes carried a tinge of unfamiliarity and caution as he sized Gu Meng Meng up from the side of the well. After a long while, he spoke again. May I ask, are you the messenger of the beast deity? Gu Meng Meng had seen countless handsome men ever since she came to the beast world. Not mentioning the others, just the 3 men with the mark on her body were definitely the most handsome men. But even so, when she saw that pair of eyes, Gu Meng Meng was still dazed. It had nothing to do with lust or any other factors, just that, it was as if through that pair of eyes, one could see the entire galaxy flowing in front of them. It was dazzling and eye-catching but without a trace of filth. It was so clean that one could not help but want to protect it, not wanting any speck of dust to taint its purity. Gu Mengmeng was willing to believe that the owner of such a pair of eyes was not a bad person. Gu Mengmeng could not help but soften her voice by an octave, as if she was coaxing her son. Yes, I'm the messenger of the beast deity, Gu Mengmeng. What about you? Who are you and why are you in the well? The owner of the eyes slowly stretched out his hands and leaned against the wall of the well. His little head poked out of the well. He pursed his lips and said, I am Prince Fei Rui of the mermaid race. Fei Rui's face was the type that made people want to protect him. It was not an exaggeration to say that Fei Rui could stimulate Gu Mengmeng's maternal love more than the 4 steamed buns. Her eyes were like cold stars, her nose was round and straight, and her lips were a light pink. She pursed her lips lightly like a child who had been wronged. Her face was round and had a baby face feel to it. There were no edges or corners on her face. Her whole person was round and cute. Mermaids, Gu Mengmeng laughed softly and asked, so you don't have legs and can't walk on land? Fei Rui was stunned and shook his head, I'm a second-rank beast man, I can take human form. However, the emissary said that to enter without permission is to defy the authority of the gods, so I didn't dare to come out. Chapter 736. Fei Rui reached out his little hand timidly. He was clearly afraid, but he still chose to believe in Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng's heart melted from his cuteness. She grabbed Fei Rui's hand and pulled him out of the well. Actually, she didn't need much strength because Fei Rui could have come out himself. He just needed permission. Thank you. Fei Rui was extremely obedient. When he smiled, he showed his canine teeth, just like the neighbor's younger brother. His hand was cold. This feeling was very similar to Snake's. Gu Mengmeng's eyes dimmed. She knew that Snake was living well now, but she couldn't suppress that longing. Gu Mengmeng brought Fei Rui back to her cave. Sandy was worried about Gu Mengmeng being alone with this strange male, so she followed them back. Fei Rui seemed to be very curious about everything. Along the way, he kept looking around, wanting to ask and touch everything, but he could not bear to let go of that first touch of warmth. Just like that, he followed Gu Mengmeng into the cave and sat obediently at the side with both hands on his knees. His starry eyes stared at Gu Mengmeng without blinking, as if he was a good student who was listening to a teacher's lecture. Why were you in the well? Gu Mengmeng was like a teacher who favored good students. Her tone of voice was extremely gentle. Fei Rui pursed his lips and said bashfully, I wanted to use that stream but it dried up. So I could only swim here from the underground river. I saw that strange exit and came up. Then, I was attacked. After I retaliated, that strange exit was sealed shut. Fei Rui sounded more and more aggrieved. Gu Mengmeng wanted to hug him and buy him a cotton candy to comfort his wounded heart. So you came to find me, right? Gu Mengmeng asked again. Fei Rui nodded. Under Gu Mengmeng's expectant and encouraging gaze, he said, I know where the kiss of the ocean is. Can I exchange wishes? Kiss of the ocean, Gu Mengmeng's heart skipped a beat. She was actually feeling very conflicted. On one hand, she wanted to use the 5 treasures to exchange for Qixuan. On the other hand, she felt that it was a very dangerous thing to give the 5 treasures to Cole. Subconsciously, she wished that she could never find them. But now that it had delivered itself to his doorstep, perhaps this was the will of the heavens. Gu Mengmeng calmed herself down and said, yeah, of course you can. Tell me your wish. Fei Rui intertwined his fingers and took a few deep breaths. Then, he raised his head and looked at Gu Mengmeng with determination. Can you make me one of your partners? Puff, Gu Mengmeng almost choked on her own saliva. He looked at Fei Rui, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. You like me? Fei Rui lowered his head and thought for a moment before shaking his head. I don't know what it means to like someone, but I need your strength to protect my sister. Before Gu Mengmeng could ask further, 2 shadows had already closed in. Gu Mengmeng landed on a broad chest. Looking up, she met a pair of blue eyes. If you want to mate with Xiao Meng, you need to challenge her partner. Do you want to challenge Leah, or me? Elvis's expression was cold, neither angry nor warm, but it was filled with a sinister sharpness that made one's back break out in cold sweat. Chapter 737. Gu Mengmeng stood up and stood in front of Fei Rui. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at Elvis and Leah. No matter how she looked at it, it felt like she was being bullied in school. It was like a gangster going to a junior high school to extort a student. Anyone with a sense of justice would not stand by and do nothing. You two are a level 5 beast and a peak level 3 beast. Is there any meaning in bullying a level 2 beast? Fei Rui is a mermaid. When he's out of the water, he's not even as powerful as a level 1 beast on land. Even if you two win, do you feel any sense of accomplishment? Not only did Gu Mengmeng's protection fail to save Fei Rui, it even caused Elvis and Lee's faces to darken. Elvis placed his large hand on Lee's shoulder and pulled him behind him. He then stood up and walked towards Gu Mengmeng with a dark expression. You like him? Gu Mengmeng sighed. Fei Rui is still a child. Elvis scooped Gu Mengmeng into his arms and carried her with one arm. Then, he pointed at Fei Rui and said, second-level beast, an adult, not a child. Here it comes again. In Elvis's eyes, all the males in the world seemed to have an affair with Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng said helplessly, he came to me to present a treasure, he wants the reward for saving his sister. Elvis's face was still black as he said, yeah, the way to save his sister is to mate with you. Gu Mengmeng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He has been living in the ocean all year round and has never seen the world. He doesn't know that there are thousands of ways to save people. If his motive is just to save his sister, we can actually provide him with other solutions, right? Elvis did not back down and said, but he has already requested to mate with you, so either Leah or I have to accept the challenge. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed, feeling rather helpless. Looking at Fei Rui's confused and guarded expression, Gu Mengmeng felt like she was a vicious stepmother who was abusing Cinderella. As for Elvis and Leah, they were probably Cinderella's elder and second elder sisters. Gu Mengmeng looked helplessly at Elvis and Leah, who were as cold as ice, and said, we still have to inspect the goods first, right? What if he couldn't take out the kiss of the ocean? Then there's no need to mention the reward, right? Elvis did not speak, but his heavy breathing showed that he was angry, very angry, very angry. Leah wagged his tail and placed an arm on Elvis's shoulder. He looked at Gu Mengmeng with a slightly aggrieved expression and said, you just want to protect him, right? Gu Mengmeng was rendered speechless by Lee's words. She stammered and said, look, Fei Rui left his hometown to deliver news to us. We can't possibly bully him because he's a foreigner, right? How unfriendly, isn't it? Leah held Gu Mengmeng's hand and gently touched his own face. He became even more aggrieved and said, but he almost ruined my face the moment he came. If I was disfigured and scarred, you would not like me anymore. I can't take this lying down. Are you not going to stand up for me? Gu Mengmeng's brain froze for a few seconds, feeling as if she had walked into the wrong theater. That. Pardon me for asking, this is the carefree beast world, right? It can't be a certain legend or a certain branch of lust, right? Seeing Lee's I feel so wronged expression, Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a long time before she said, so the person who attacked Fei Rui and blocked the well with a rock was you? Chapter 738. Sorry, I apologize. A tiny voice rang out softly from the corner. Lee's face froze. He turned to look at the sincere yet timid Fei Rui. Why did he feel like he had been made a fool of? If he were to apologize like that, it would make his actions seem especially unreasonable. Leah clenched his teeth and tossed out a sentence. Green tea bitch. Gu Mengmeng laughed. She recalled how she had taught Leah and Elvis about the basic concepts of green tea bitches and white lotus flowers in the past. She felt much better. She started to understand why when girls scolded others as green tea bitches, their boyfriends would look at her with a, you are being unreasonable, expression. Actually, she really did not have any improper thoughts towards a little puppy like Fei Rui. Gu Mengmeng knew that she could not bring herself to do something like harming the flower of her country. Gu Mengmeng hugged Li's face and kissed him. She smiled. You look very handsome when you are jealous. But I prefer you when you are full of confidence. Leah glanced sideways at Fei Rui. His lips curled up slightly. He did not say a word. But Gu Mengmeng could clearly see the flaunting and provocation on his face. That expression had already vividly displayed his classic line of, Mengmeng's heart is always on our side. Leah used to treat Snake like that too. But at least Snake was a powerful adult male. Treating Fei Rui like that seemed like making a mountain out of a molehill. But to be treasured and nervous by her own male, yeah, this feeling was actually not bad. How could Leah allow Gu Mengmeng to leave after a perfunctory kiss in front of his love rival? Cupping the back of her head with one hand, he brought her lips back to his mouth and kissed her deeply. He kissed her until Gu Mengmeng lost all her energy and lay limp as if she had no bones. Only then did he release her reluctantly. He gently lifted her little chin, and his long and blurry eyes were filled with satisfaction. The corners of his lips curled into a seductive smile as he said, indulging my jealousy. How should I repay you? Why don't you devote your life to me? Gu Mengmeng realized that she was becoming more and more sensitive in terms of relationships. A soul that had been lonely for thousands of years yearned for gentleness. And because of this, she could not control herself in the face of Li's teasing. She pretended to slap Leah and raised her head. You've been mine since a long time ago. The mark is on my ear. You want to repay me with something that belongs to me? Only you can think of that. Leah placed one arm on Elvis's shoulder and the other gently caressed the fox mark on Gu Mengmeng's left ear. A tinge of happiness shone in his eyes. Chuckling, Leah licked his lower lip with the tip of his tongue and looked at Gu Mengmeng covetously. Gu Mengmeng, say that again. Say what? Gu Mengmeng's face was so red that she could not even breathe evenly. She was in Elvis's arms but she was flirting with Leah in public. What the hell was going on? It's so embarrassing, but my heart is beating really fast. Say I'm yours. Li's lips inched closer, almost touching the tip of her nose. Gu Mengmeng shrunk into Elvis's arms shyly. She blushed and said softly, you're mine. Leah pecked Gu Mengmeng's lips lightly. Then, he moved his lips to Gu Mengmeng's left ear. His warm breath landed on her ear and he whispered in a hoarse voice. Word by word, he landed on Gu Mengmeng's heart. These are the most touching words of love that I've ever heard. I'm yours, you can take whatever you want. Aside from the topic. Chapter 739. Gu Mengmeng felt as though her heart was about to jump out of her chest. She quickly pushed Leah away and buried her blushing face into Elvis's chest, not saying a word. But Leah was smiling brightly. He poked Gu Mengmeng's little head from behind and said, all right, come out quickly. I won't tease you anymore. Elvis will kill me if I hold it in for too long. The more Leah poked her, the more Gu Mengmeng tried to hide. She really felt a little embarrassed. It would have been fine if it was just Sandy, but that Fei Rui was also there. He was still a child. Was it really alright to flirt in front of a child? Elvis looked at the interaction between Leah and Gu Mengmeng and only smiled gently and helplessly. Luckily, compared to Fei Rui, that little white flower of unknown origins, Gu Mengmeng clearly preferred Leah, that flirtatious B*TCH. It seemed like there would not be another family member at home. This made Elvis heave a sigh of relief. He then looked at Fei Rui, who did not seem to be the least bit jealous of Gu Mengmeng and Li's flirting. He just stared blankly at them, as though the doors to a new world had been opened. That pair of eyes, they were really so clean that they did not seem like something that should exist in this world. Elvis raised his free hand and placed it on Li's shoulder. Enough is enough. Leah was also observing Fei Rui. He realized that although he had requested to mate with Gu Mengmeng, he did not seem to know much about it. Or rather, he did not have any intentions towards Gu Mengmeng. After testing him out, he exchanged glances with Elvis. They both placed Fei Rui on the second-level danger list that needed to be observed but did not require any special precautions. And the ones who remained on the first-level danger list were still Sandy and the 4 little ones. As for the people on the second-level danger list, apart from the first-level danger list, everyone else was on the second-level danger list. Leah made a big pot of boiled meat slices. The ingredients were naturally provided by Oriton, who always appeared at mealtimes. As Sandy was a foodie, she completely blocked out Lee's and Elvis's "Why aren't you leaving?" gaze when she saw the big pot of food. She held Gu Mengmeng's little hand and sat beside her, eating contentedly. It was Fei Rui's first time seeing a land beast man eating. He felt it was novel, but he wasn't surprised. Looking at them eating in full swing, he also had an urge to try. Gu Mengmeng pulled his hand that was about to reach into the pot. She shook her head and said, "This is very hot. You will get hurt if you hold it with your hands." "Oh." Fei Rui lowered his head like a child who had done something wrong. He looked at the fragrant meat in the pot and swallowed his saliva, looking a little pitiful. Gu Mengmeng used a pair of chopsticks to pick up a few pieces of meat, then placed them in clear water to rinse off the chili. She passed the chopsticks and bowl to Fei Rui with a smile. "Here, this is for you." Fei Rui's eyes lit up. His radiant smile made Gu Mengmeng feel as though she was in the galaxy. Unknowingly, she was infected by him and returned the same smile. But this interaction made Lee's vinegar jar overturn. Holding Gu Mengmeng's little face, Leah kissed her and swallowed the piece of meat in her mouth that had yet to be swallowed. Chapter 740. After lunch, Oriton was in charge of cleaning the kitchen waste and washing the pots. Sandy could not stand Leah and Elvis's dark faces and secretly chasing them away, so they all left. Then, Fei Rui sat in a corner, facing Gu Mengmeng, who was all smiles, and Elvis and Leah, who were standing on his left and right. It felt like a 3-division joint hearing. Gu Mengmeng had always been patient with beautiful children, so she smiled and said, "All right, now let's talk about serious matters. What happened to your sister? Why do you need me to rescue her?" At the mention of his sister, Fei Rui's face was filled with worry. He pursed his lips and said, "My sister is the prettiest little princess in the mermaid tribe. She is smart and kind. But because of this, she incurred the jealousy of Dora. Dora stole the giant fish tribe's treasure and framed my sister, so the leader of the giant fish tribe, Carter, kidnapped my sister." Gu Mengmeng frowned and sighed. A woman's jealousy could sometimes be very crazy and unreasonable. "Then what do you want me to do? If it's in the sea, even I have limited battle powers. Elvis may be a 5th-level beast, but he can't use his full power underwater." Gu Mengmeng did not want to stand by and watch, but just wanted to lay out the reality of the situation. If the person who had the power of a beast king was Snake instead of herself, she could easily agree to Fei Rui's request. As long as Snake made a trip to the deep sea, the giant fish tribe would obediently hand over the person without needing to do anything. But although she had Snake's power, she was after all not a snake. Breathing and battling underwater were extremely limited to her. She could kill people in a frenzy, but saving people, Gu Mengmeng knew that she did not have the ability to do so. She did not want to give Fei Rui false hope and then shatter it, so the best way was to tell him the truth. Fei Rui shook his head and said, "Although I really want to save my sister, I will not risk the great messenger's life. You are the hope of the entire beast world, nothing must happen to you." This sentence pleased Elvis and Leah. Their hostility towards him had lessened, and even the temperature in the cave seemed to have risen a lot. Then, Gu Mengmeng guided Fei Rui to continue. Fei Rui clenched his fists tightly and placed them on his knees. He raised his head and his eyes that were as bright as the stars were filled with determination. "So, Lord Messenger, please accept me as your partner. In this way, I will become the link between you and the sea tribes. At that time, the giant fish clan will definitely return my sister to me." Gu Mengmeng understood what he was thinking. The kiss of the ocean was the dowry for his younger sister, who was willing to marry him. Gu Mengmeng smiled and shook her head. She reached out to stroke Fei Rui's little head. So are you planning to use my name to bully others? Fei Rui was startled, and a guilty blush appeared on his face. He bit his lower lip and nodded with difficulty. Chapter 741. Gu Mengmeng tapped her fingers rhythmically on Elvis's arm. This was a sign that she was in deep thought. Actually, Elvis and Leah had countless methods to settle such a small matter. Although there might be some unexpected situations in the ocean, Elvis and Leah were too good at forcing someone to hand over something. Elvis and Leah were too good at it. However, they didn't say much. They were willing to wait for the little woman to come up with an unreliable or very roundabout method. Then, they would let her try it. Even if she stabbed the sky down, the two of them would hold it up for her. Being able to clean up the mess for his female was the value of a male's existence. He really missed the times when she used her power to bully others. In that case, he was starting to miss Nina. Gu Mengmeng's tapping fingers suddenly stopped. Her lips curled into a sly smile. Since it's so troublesome to find a specific fish in the ocean, why don't we let this fish come to us on its own? Fei Rui tilted his head, his bright eyes filled with confusion. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. The female Dora of the mermaid tribe has found the treasure that the messenger of the beast deity needs. As long as you bring it to me, I can fulfill a wish. Leah and Elvis exchanged a smile. How could their little female be so adorable when she was lying to others? Her large eyes were filled with a sly smile. It was mischievous but very seductive. Fei Rui didn't understand Gu Mengmeng's plan. He shook his head. Dora did steal the treasure of the giant fish tribe, but it wasn't the kiss of the ocean. Gu Mengmeng was tickled by Fei Rui's kindness and innocence. She shook her head in exasperation. You are indeed still a baby. The mutual deceit of the adult world doesn't suit you. Let me do this kind of trickery. You just wait for Dora to bring the treasure back, then go and exchange it for your sister. Fei Rui didn't understand Gu Mengmeng's plan. But he felt that these three people before him had a certain kind of power. Her words didn't need any other evidence to convince him. Gu Mengmeng went through this plan a few more times in her mind. She thought of a few ways to complement each other. Then, she stretched lazily and looked at Fei Rui. Are you all right leaving the water for a long time? Fei Rui blinked his bright eyes and nodded. Actually, I still feel very uncomfortable, Gu Mengmeng said. Then why don't you go soak in the well first? Fei Rui's eyes lit up as he asked with anticipation, Can I? Leah said, No. Gu Mengmeng. Leah gave Gu Mengmeng a reproachful look and she immediately shut her mouth. What a joke, if her family's vinegar jar were to be overturned. Fei Rui would be the one to make a dish of fish with vinegar sauce. Leah said, The well is the drinking water source for all of us in the tribe. If you soak in it, do you want everyone in the tribe to drink your bath water? You should return to the sea and wait for news. When that Dora comes looking for us, we will inform you. Fei Rui's eyes dimmed again. He looked like a bullied child as he bit his lower lip and said, I'm not going into the well. It's fine even if I don't soak in the water. I'll wait for you to return to the sea with me. Chapter 742. Fei Rui was stunned for a moment before shaking his head. No way, you must follow me back to the ocean. Leah sneered and his gaze turned sharp. He emphasized each word. No way. Must? Who do you think you are? Fei Rui was frightened by Li's aura. He shrunk his neck and avoided Li's gaze. He only looked at Gu Mengmeng. I know where the kiss of the ocean is, but I can't take it out. The great messenger must go there personally, oh? Leah clearly did not believe him. Once in the water, he and Elvis would be in a useless state. They had experienced the feeling of helplessness in the Snake King Valley once and they did not want to experience it again. Fei Rui panicked. He suddenly realized that his ability to organize his words was very problematic. The more he tried to explain, the more he could not speak clearly. In the end, he almost bit his own tongue but still could not come up with a clear explanation. Gu Mengmeng looked at Fei Rui, who was as anxious as a child who could not find his homework. She took the initiative to stroke his head and smiled. Don't worry, don't panic. Speak slowly. Strangely, Gu Mengmeng had the ability to calm people down. Fei Rui looked at Gu Mengmeng's clear eyes and nodded slowly. He slowly calmed his chaotic emotions due to Li's aura. He took 2 deep breaths before speaking. The kiss of the ocean is a pearl. It is in the forbidden abyss of the mermaid tribe and is protected by an old mussel spirit. The only person who made him willingly hand over the kiss of the ocean was the previous messenger of the beast deity. Although I don't know why the previous messenger returned the kiss of the ocean, but for the past 1,000 years, so many people have set their sights on the kiss of the ocean. But not a single person could enter the forbidden abyss. Gu Mengmeng was a little confused. An old mussel spirit, another monster that had lived for over 1,000 years? The beast king of the ocean? Didn't Snake say that he was the only beast king in the beast world? What was wrong with this fellow? Gu Mengmeng thought about it and shifted the focus to a more normal topic. The forbidden abyss? Fei Rui nodded. I heard from the elders that it was not a forbidden area in the past. It only became a forbidden area after the previous messenger placed the kiss of the ocean back. The previous messenger cast a spell there and no one can enter. Wasn't the previous messenger Snake sometimes amusing and sometimes cold-blooded split mother? He could even cast spells? Gu Mengmeng did not really believe it. This was because Snake's inherited memories also contained his father's memories. From the time his father interacted with Wang Xiaoxin, she was just a psychologist who was proficient in some things from the Book of Changes. Casting spells and setting up arrays were so fantastical that they could only exist in the investiture of the gods. She didn't have such skills. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her chin, thinking. But Elvis pinched her little face, his blue eyes staring straight at Gu Mengmeng. You're not allowed to go. But, no buts. In the sea, Leia and I can't protect you. It's too dangerous, you can't go, Elvis insisted. Gu Mengmeng thought for a while and suddenly laughed. You don't have to worry about my safety if I bring along a bodyguard who is good at fighting in the water. Elvis frowned and asked, who? Chapter 743. Elvis frowned and thought for a long time. He filtered through all the people around Gu Mengmeng, but could not think of anyone who matched Gu Mengmeng's 2 points and was reliable. But Leah was crafty and smiled knowingly. You mean Wabi? Gu Mengmeng nodded. Bingo, Leah thought about it and nodded. If it's him, his battle power is indeed guaranteed. After all, he was a snake trained by Snake for over 800 years. He would be able to crush anyone he placed him in. But, he treats you as his love rival? Could it be? Leah looked at Elvis suggestively as he spoke. The fur on Elvis's tail stood on end. He gritted his teeth. It's not me. Leah shrugged. It's not me either. Gu Mengmeng covered her mouth and laughed. It's Snake. Lee's eyes sparkled as he asked, he had an affair with Snake? Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Failed. Elvis looked at the mark on the back of Gu Mengmeng's neck and suddenly felt that Snake was very pitiful. Clearing his throat, he said, if it's him, it's indeed not a problem to ensure your safety. But, will he be willing to accompany you? Gu Mengmeng stretched out her hand and gently caressed the back of her neck. Her expression was indifferent. If it's a fake emperor's edict, he won't reject it. Elvis paused and said, you want to tell him that Snake asked him to accompany you? Gu Mengmeng nodded. Leah kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face. You are still so gentle. There are thousands of ways to make him listen to you, but you chose the one that gives him a sliver of hope. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. I just don't like how he looks like Snake's widow, so I wanted to make fun of him. Leah did not force Gu Mengmeng to admit it. He just pinched her little nose. Snake will probably be overjoyed if he hears this. He must think that you are jealous. Thinking back to how Snake wooed her in the modern world with the beast deity, Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt much more relaxed. He probably doesn't have time to be happy right now. I'll definitely spare no effort to make things difficult for him. Humph, who told him to make the decision to die on his own? He made me sad for so long. Punishing him is a must. Leah rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head and did not continue the topic of Snake. He and Elvis were very clear that even if Mengmeng's condition was much better now, her guilt towards Snake was still buried in the deepest part of her heart and it would still hurt when touched. If we want Wabi to come with us, we might have to move as soon as possible. After the dry season, it will be the rainy season. At that time, we will have to start stockpiling food for the winter and Wabi will also have to prepare for hibernation. We don't have much time. We can't drag this out for too long. Elvis was more than willing to let Gu Mengmeng throw herself into something so that she would not have time to let her imagination run wild. Whether it was Snake, Qi Xian or coal, it would be best if she could push all these things to the back of her mind. He didn't allow her to go because he was worried about her safety. Now that there was a solution, he naturally wouldn't stop her. Gu Mengmeng nodded with a bitter smile. Looks like we have to entrust our sons to Sandy again. If these three fellows stay at Sandy's place all the time, I wonder if it will affect their marriage. Chapter 744. After the plan was finalized, he no longer hesitated. After all, time was really tight. Gu Mengmeng handed the three children over to Sandy and felt rather apologetic. But Sandy was very happy. She felt that Gu Mengmeng had entrusted the child to her because she trusted her. This meant that Gu Mengmeng still treated her as a friend. The three little ones only knew that their mother was going to collect the ransom for Qi Xian. They were all very sensible and said that they would train themselves well at home and wait obediently for their mother to return. Elvis and Leah handed over the tribe's matters to Oriton and Colin. This was a risky move, because the two of them had the same personality from a certain point of view, and that was, if they could use their fists, they would try not to use their mouths. But Colin's temperament had become much better after he had mated, and Oriton had also been by Gu Mengmeng's side as the messenger's guard for such a long time. As long as they did not provoke him, there would not be much of a problem. Moreover, everyone knew that these two people had bad tempers. In any case, not many people dared to cause trouble. Everything was ready. Gu Mengmeng, Elvis and Leah would travel by land, while Ian would travel by air as support. Fei Rui would jump into the well and take the water route back to the seaside to prepare for the rescue. Gu Mengmeng had walked this path from St. Nazaire to the Snake King Valley. It was just that her state of mind had undergone an earth-shattering change. Now that he was walking the same path again, he felt as if it was a lifetime ago. A few days later, Gu Mengmeng stood at the entrance of the Snake King Valley. Strangely, she had a feeling of returning home. Perhaps this feeling originated from Snake's memories. After all, this was the place he was most familiar with for 1,000 years. She lifted her feet and entered. The rustling sounds on both sides did not make her stop. Just as she reached the entrance of Snake's cave, she felt a sharp force coming at her from behind. Gu Mengmeng did not retaliate. Instead, she turned around and smiled at Duya, who was just inches away from her. She waved her hands with her eyebrows arched and said, "How are you going to bite me? If you want to bite me, do it quickly. Don't drip your saliva on me. It's disgusting." With his mouth agape, Wabi felt like he was in a mess. What was this damned female laughing at? Why didn't she just slap him to the ground? Why didn't they follow the rules? This made him feel very awkward with his mouth wide open. Transforming into human form, Wabi looked at Gu Mengmeng in disdain. He frowned and asked, "Why did you come back if you're not going to fight?" Gu Mengmeng chuckled and raised her hand to slap Wabi, sending him flying. With a bang, Wabi crashed into a tree and the tree toppled over, as though it had been snapped in half. Wabi jumped up and rushed to Gu Mengmeng's side. He pointed at Gu Mengmeng's nose furiously. "What are you doing?" Gu Mengmeng shrugged and said, "Sneak attack, all is fair in war, this is war." Wabi was so angry that he spun in circles. "If you want to launch a sneak attack, so be it. Why did you smash the tree?" "He didn't allow us to hit the tree, he said he wouldn't allow it. Gu Mengmeng laughed and said, he said not to kick the fruit tree, because I like it. That tree just now was obviously not a fruit tree and I don't really like it. Don't worry, he won't blame you. Wabi gritted his teeth, suddenly feeling very helpless. He had no way to deal with this female. Gu Mengmeng was the biggest challenge Snake had left for him. Tell me, you didn't come back just to smash a tree, right? Digression, Wabi, you can hit me, but you can't destroy the tree. If you want to chop the tree, you have to do it over my dead body. Gu Mengmeng. Chapter 745. Gu Mengmeng nodded. Yeah, I want to go to the ocean. Accompany me. Wabi snorted. Not free. Not going. Gu Mengmeng placed her hands behind her back and said lightly, Snake asked you to accompany me. The moment he heard the first 3 words, Wabi was stunned. His hands trembled uncontrollably as he stared at the little female who had casually mentioned that name. After a long while, he finally found his voice. If you dare to lie to me, I will kill you, Gu Mengmeng smiled innocently. Don't brag. You can't beat me. I will become a beast king one day. Wabi roared. Gu Mengmeng shrugged. Even if you become a beast king, you will at most be on par with me. Moreover, you are just a pile of sh*t. Do you think you can become a demon? Wabi's face flushed with anger. Are you talking about my looks again? Actually, in the past 800 years, he had always been quite confident of his looks. He had once felt that the only person in this world who was slightly better looking than him was Snake. But ever since this little girl came, his confidence in his looks had been crushed to bits. Now, he was traumatized. Especially after accompanying her to Saint Nazaire and seeing what a 4-legged animal's sh*t looked like, Gu Mengmeng circled 3 times with her right hand, then placed it on her chest and did a gentlemanly salute. She then said, the Honorable President of the Appearance Association, a veteran member of the elite class, a staunch supporter of the idea that looks are justice, I am Gu Mengmeng. You. What about me? Gu Mengmeng was clearly fearless. And Wabi really couldn't do anything to her. Wabi flung his hands. He wanted to turn and leave in a suave manner. But he had only taken 1 step when he stopped. Without turning back, he turned his back to Gu Mengmeng. His voice was cold. This was his final stubbornness. When do we set off? Gu Mengmeng didn't put on airs. Tomorrow morning. Wabi didn't say another word. He just walked away. To Elvis and Leah, the Snake King Valley was really not a place with beautiful memories. So Gu Mengmeng asked them to wait for her outside the valley. And that night, Gu Mengmeng did not feel sleepy at all. She wandered aimlessly in the Snake King Valley but realized that Snake's shadow was everywhere she went. Apart from the 1 month they spent together, her body also contained thousands of years of memories of him. Wasn't he everywhere she went? A few little snakes led the way for Gu Mengmeng and brought her to the spot where she buried the fruits from the fruit tree that Snake had kicked over. Gu Mengmeng squatted in front of that tender green branch and could not help but smile. She gently stroked the leaf with her fingers and muttered to herself, a new cycle, a new beginning. Snake, are you living well over there too? Gu Mengmeng didn't return to the cave and just slept at a spot not far from the little sapling. Before she slept, she instructed the little snake that if she didn't wake up the next morning, Wabi was to carry her away. Elvis and Leah would wait outside for her as they knew where to go. Closing her eyes slowly, Gu Mengmeng thought to herself, lonely old man, your filial daughter is back to watch romantic dramas with you. Chapter 746. Daughter, you are back. This conversation should have been accompanied by 2 plates of steaming dumplings and an old man in an apron, and not this smiling person in her early 20s, dressed in white. Gu Mengmeng no longer had the energy to criticize the setting of this father and daughter. Who asked her to be the one to use them as a shield? Lonely old man, I have something to ask you. Gu Mengmeng was afraid that she would forget about this after watching the television series, so she asked first, Does Wang Xiaoxin know how to set up an array? Like in Investiture of the Gods? The beast deity pursed his lips and chuckled. He shook his head in an exceptionally benevolent manner. She doesn't. Gu Mengmeng replied, oh. Then Fei Rui said that the kiss of the ocean is in some forbidden abyss and that she had set up some array. The beast deity maintained his benevolent smile of a deity loving the world. He replied, the array in the forbidden abyss was not set up by Wang Xiaoxin. It was set up by me. Pfft. Gu Mengmeng really wanted to spit on his face. But thinking that she had a favor to ask, she held it in. How do I break it? I want to go in and take the kiss of the ocean. The beast deity replied, no need to break it. You can just go in. Gu Mengmeng asked, really? The beast deity replied, that array is only effective against the ocean tribes. It is useless against other races. Gu Mengmeng looked at the beast deity suspiciously. Are you lying? The beast deity straightened his expression and said, immortals cannot lie. I set up that array to prevent the appearance of the treasure, which would cause chaos and no one could control the situation. So I forbade the ocean tribes from bringing it out from the ocean. And the forbidden abyss is in the depths of the ocean. Other than the ocean tribes, no one has the ability to infiltrate there. So I only set up the array to target the ocean tribes. Gu Mengmeng smiled with her eyes narrowed. She wrapped her arms around the beast deity's arm. Papa, you will help me, right? The beast deity looked at Gu Mengmeng for a while before replying. Call me Papa when there is something important and call me a lonely old man when there is nothing important. TSK, where did you learn to curry favor with others? Gu Mengmeng put on a cheeky face and smiled. Papa, all the daughters in the world are the same. You're only a good kid when you get pocket money. You have to learn to accept reality. The beast deity thought about it and sighed as if he had accepted his fate. All right, my good daughter. Watch a TV series with me, and I'll give you some pocket money. Gu Mengmeng nodded and sat down with a face full of joy. All right, father. With a wave of the beast deity's hand, a part of the white fog cleared away. Gu Mengmeng was like a bored fairy sitting in the clouds, watching the romantic idol drama between Snake and her other self with great interest. Yes, Snake was in charge of romance and idols, so she could only be in charge of dramas. The bell signaling the start of class had already rung, and the professor was taking attendance on the roll. Gu Mengmeng sat at the furthest corner of the classroom. This lesson was compulsory and there were about 200 people in the classroom. Because of the scene on the field just now, her heart was in a mess, and she just wanted to find a corner to calm down. However, it was obvious that someone was not willing to let her do as she wished. A slender figure leaned against the door. The sunlight elongated his shadow, pointing straight at a certain ostrich in the classroom. His jade-green eyes carried a hint of playfulness and a lot of pampering. With just one look, he found her in the corner of the classroom. Chapter 747. Gu Mengmeng. The professor had been looking down at the name list and did not notice that all the female students in the class had fallen into a love-struck atmosphere. When no one responded to his call, the professor was a little displeased. He raised his head and shouted, "Is Gu Mengmeng here?" "I'm here." Snake raised his hand and walked in from the doorway with graceful and steady steps. This simple word caused an uproar in the classroom. Shock. The coolest school hunk was not a mute. Snake could not see anyone other than Gu Mengmeng. No matter how crazy the lascivious girls around him were, he only walked towards Gu Mengmeng step by step. He bent down, satisfied that her gaze was always focused on his face. Curling his devilish lips, he said, "Go in, I will sit at the side for you to look." Gu Mengmeng then snapped out of her trance and lowered her head hurriedly, saying, "Who's looking at you? You think too highly of yourself." Snake narrowed his eyes with an unhappy expression, saying, "Or do you think I look better when I stand at the door? If you like, I can also stand back there." The students had already started jeering and Gu Mengmeng's face turned even redder. She could guarantee that if Snake really stood at the classroom door for an entire lesson, she would definitely become public enemy number one. Not knowing what went wrong, Gu Mengmeng stood up and said to the professor, "Professor, this person is not from our class. He is disrupting the order of the class, aren't you going to chase him out?" The professor was obviously taken aback when he saw a snake. His brows were tightly knitted together. He originally wanted to keep the peace, but after Gu Mengmeng's words, he had no choice but to ask. So he cleared his throat and asked, "This student, are you from our class?" Snake turned around and smiled politely, saying, "No, I am a family member." With that, without waiting for Gu Mengmeng's reaction, he had already sat on Gu Mengmeng's seat. He then looked up at Gu Mengmeng with a smile, asking, "Sit in there, or sit in my arms? It's up to you." "You." Gu Mengmeng's face was as red as a pig's liver. She had originally chosen to sit at the furthest corner in order to remain calm. In front of her was the table, and behind her was the wall. The only exit was blocked by Snake. Unless she could fly, she had nowhere else to go. All right. Isn't it just a student who wants to listen in? Don't you have a seat inside? Sit down, don't disturb the class." The professor lectured Gu Mengmeng at the right time. This made Gu Mengmeng speechless even if she wanted to retort. Fuming, she shifted inwards and sat against the wall, as if she wished she could pass through the wall. Snake chuckled. This professor's research project was funded by him. It had started 3 years ago. Before the semester started, the research had entered the final critical moment, but he suddenly refused to give the professor any funding. When the professor was in a panic, he arranged for someone to call the professor to his office for a meeting. He was raising a dog, after all, it had to know its master. With one hand on the table, Snake smiled at Gu Mengmeng, who was avoiding him like the plague. He did not like this feeling. Although she was afraid of him in the past, she had never avoided and rejected him like this. With his palm facing upwards, Snake placed his hand on the table and said softly, "Tu Meng." Gu Mengmeng snorted. She politely declined such a way of addressing her like a dog. Rolling her eyes, she turned her head to the side and ignored Snake. Digression. Today's update was actually stuck on Snake's digression, although it was not a crucial plot, but to be stuck in such a high sugar content area, the babies would probably not be happy. I was wrong, even so, you guys still have to love me, understand? Chapter 748. How was Snake someone who would allow others to ignore him like that? Especially when that person was Gu Mengmeng, he would never allow it. So he flipped his hand and placed it on Gu Mengmeng's arm. Pulling his arm back, Gu Mengmeng was pulled from her seat into Snake's arms. The commotion was not small, and coupled with the fact that everyone in class was already paying attention to them, it caused a commotion. Gu Mengmeng blushed furiously as she glared at Snake. "What are you doing? Are you behaving like a hooligan?" But Snake smiled. He liked the way she looked at him. She could be bashful or angry, as long as she looked at him. He sat at his original spot lazily and did not move. His lips curled up slightly, clearly in a good mood. He said, "My arms are the safest and most comfortable. It's always better than sitting on that hard bench." Crazy. Gu Mengmeng scolded softly and was about to stand up. Snake's large hand grabbed onto Gu Mengmeng's waist and his upper body moved downwards. He used his entire body to hug Gu Mengmeng, giving her a huge amount of pressure. He squinted his eyes and smiled wickedly. He whispered into Gu Mengmeng's ear, "If you dare to stand up, I will kiss you in front of everyone." Gu Mengmeng instinctively raised her hands to cover her mouth tightly. She stared at Snake in shock, her face full of wariness, but she could not do anything to him. Snake rubbed Gu Mengmeng's head and smiled. "Just stay in my arms obediently and look at me." Gu Mengmeng really wanted to cry but no tears came out. What was wrong with this mute school hunk who was popular in the whole school? Did he lose in truth or dare? Sob, 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 heavens, earth, which deity will show herself and subdue this demon? Gu Mengmeng did not dare to stay a second longer. She flipped over the table and ran away. Seeing how she knocked over many tables and chairs along the way and sent many students flying, Snake's lips curled into a doting and indulgent smile. His Tumang was living well. She was healthy and could run very fast. Getting up, Snake walked towards the exit of the classroom. A group of girls who had been waiting for the entire lesson finally seized the opportunity and surrounded Snake tightly. They used the time of a lesson to write the love letters on the spot and presented them to Snake. However, Snake frowned and his gaze turned sharp and cold. He didn't even bother to say, "Scram," to them. With a cold expression, he forced back the people in front of him step by step. How annoying, he wasted a full 17 seconds of his time. These 17 seconds were originally enough for him to catch the flustered little rabbit. On the other side, Gu Mengmeng's mind went blank. She hugged her school bag and escaped into the female toilet. She clearly didn't do anything wrong, but she didn't know why she felt so scared and guilty. Her heart was about to jump out of her throat, but she didn't know what she was afraid of. Her phone rang and Gu Mengmeng quickly picked it up when she saw that it was a call from her workplace. Before she could say anything, the foreman directly informed her that she no longer needed to go to work from today onwards. He said that the company had redistributed the staff and there was no longer a need for part-time employees. Her salary had already been transferred to her bank account. Then, he hung up. Before Gu Mengmeng could react, another call came in. It was the school dormitory management auntie. She said that someone in her dormitory had violated the rules by cooking, so everyone in her dormitory had been disqualified. Their luggage had all been packed and piled up in the mail room. She was told to take it and leave quickly, aside. Chapter 749. Gu Mengmeng squatted in the toilet with her phone and school bag in hand, suddenly feeling dazed. She had looked at her horoscope before leaving the house and it said that today was a good day to confess. But why did bad things happen one after another from the moment she confessed? The bell for class had already rung but Gu Mengmeng had no intention of going to class. She lost her job, lost her place to stay, she had some savings on hand and it should be enough to support her until she found a new job. But she had to find a place to stay as soon as possible or she would have to sleep under the bridge tonight. In a daze, Gu Mengmeng washed her face and encouraged herself in front of the mirror. Then, she came out of the toilet and was prepared to look for cheaper girls' shared accommodation near the school. As soon as he walked out of the restroom, he saw a man with a typical European appearance leaning against the wall of the women's restroom. He exuded an irresistible aristocratic aura. Even when he was smiling, he gave off the urge to kneel down and shout, "Long live the king." For no reason, Gu Mengmeng blushed instinctively. Lowering her head, Gu Mengmeng turned and ran in the opposite direction. But how could her two short legs outrun the other's two long legs? Taking a step forward, Snake easily grabbed Gu Mengmeng's school bag and pulled, causing Gu Mengmeng to fall backwards. A well-prepared chest caught her firmly and a large hand with distinct joints pinched Gu Mengmeng's chin. His mischievous gaze was filled with playfulness and the corners of his lips curved into a smile. His voice was clear and cold and every word was like pearls landing on a jade plate, so crisp that no one could ignore it. "You didn't cry?" Gu Mengmeng was taken aback and thought that Snake was probably referring to the time he hugged her in class. Not daring to provoke this man, Gu Mengmeng grinned and said, "You lost in truth or dare, right? The punishment is to make me cry? Then, why don't I cooperate and cry a few times?" Snake's face turned cold and he said, "You're not allowed to cry, it's so ugly." "Then I won't cry." "Almighty, can you let go?" Gu Mengmeng looked at Snake with a pleading expression. Snake raised his eyebrows and said, "On what basis?" Gu Mengmeng choked on the question and was caught off guard and could not answer. He shouldn't have been grabbed like this in the first place. He should have let go, right? "What do you mean by why?" Snake curled his lips and said, "You almost fell and I caught you. You want me to let go of you without thanking me?" Gu Mengmeng had a look of realization as she hurriedly nodded her head and said, I was muddle-headed and forgot." "Almighty, thank you, thank you, thank you. Do you know who I am?" Snake asked as he firmly held on to Gu Mengmeng, who was desperately trying to break free. Gu Mengmeng said with a fawning expression, "Who in the entire university doesn't know you? Your name is like thunder piercing the ears, like the sun in the sky, who am I?" Gu Mengmeng, the coolest school hunk, what about the name? Snake was unhappy. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips into a straight line, then shook her head slowly and honestly. Snake narrowed his eyes and was obviously angry. Was he not famous enough? In order to occupy the position of Senior Adonis, in her heart, His Highness Snakel, actually competed with a bunch of useless people in swimming for entertainment. But this heartless girl actually didn't know his name? Chapter 750. Gu Mengmeng looked at Snake in a daze, her face full of confusion. "I like boys from the swimming club." "I don't." Snake sighed, feeling a little depressed, but he still let go of Gu Mengmeng. In order to gain the status of Senior Prince Charming, Snake had used all sorts of angles to crush that student who should have been worshipped by Gu Mengmeng until he started to doubt his life. But this girl actually did not like boys who knew how to swim. Did she have to see that person swimming for her to like him? If he had known earlier, he would not have waited for 2 months. He should have captured her back the moment she started school. That way, the situation this morning would not have happened. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got when he handed the love letter he had waited for over 10 years to someone else. Gu Mengmeng could feel the intense resentment emanating from Snake. Step by step, she slowly inched away, wanting to escape. Her phone rang at an untimely time, giving Gu Mengmeng such a shock that all her hairs stood on end. Snake took a deep breath, as if he had calmed down from his resentment. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Gu Mengmeng in disdain. His half-smile was a little scary. "The phone is ringing, aren't you going to pick it up?" Gu Mengmeng looked down and saw that it was an unfamiliar number. She was a little confused, but still picked it up. "Hello, who is this?" Snake crossed his arms and watched Gu Mengmeng's expression change like a Sichuan opera face changing. He hung up the phone in a daze and jumped up, shaking his head excitedly. Yeah, the effect was very satisfactory. It was worth it for him to buy a chain restaurant and donate a new air conditioner to the entire school dormitory. He had wanted to see the process of her going from grievance to excitement, but this girl was stronger than he thought. She did not cry when she came out of the toilet. But it seemed like he did not expect her to cry. Now, it was very good. Gu Mengmeng screamed for a long time before she calmed herself down. She grinned from ear to ear and kissed the phone again and again. Snake was dissatisfied. Why was she kissing the phone? Shouldn't she be kissing him? TSK, that stupid phone, which factory produced it? Why was it so ugly and an eyesore? Gu Mengmeng seemed like she wanted to say something to Snake, and Snake was waiting for her to share her joy. But Gu Mengmeng just gestured in front of Snake, without saying a word, she just ran off. Snake grabbed her school bag and pulled her back. "Where are we going?" he asked despite knowing the answer. Gu Mengmeng was extremely agitated. She desperately wanted to share it with someone. Although Snake was not a suitable partner, she wanted to let him off just now, but he came to her door on his own accord. So Gu Mengmeng hugged Snake and jumped up and down a few times before saying, "I just received a call from Monster Company. They said that I passed the interview and can go for an internship. A monthly salary of $4,500, and food and lodging are included. I'm so happy." Snake was in a good mood because of Gu Mengmeng's hug, and felt even more comfortable seeing her happy expression. Was she that happy to be by his side? Seeing that she wanted to come to his side so much, he would reluctantly forgive her for not knowing his name. Chapter 751. Gu Mengmeng's brain was in a state of extreme excitement and she had no time to react to anything else. She still felt like she was dreaming when she held the employment application receipt and the work pass in her hands. Snake squinted his eyes and was no longer in a good mood. What was so good about that stupid sign? Was it better looking than him? Why was it staring at the sign and not him? Reaching out, Snake poked Gu Mengmeng's head hard and said, "Hey, come back to your senses." Gu Mengmeng was taken aback and stared at Snake for a long time. She said in a daze, why are you here?" Snake was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He gritted his teeth and said, "Who do you think drove you here and accompanied you to complete the employment procedures?" Gu Mengmeng smacked her head and laughed foolishly. Yes, thank you for sending me here." Snake cleared his throat and looked at Gu Mengmeng arrogantly. He asked, "Just a word of thanks and that's it? No action at all?" Yes, let me treat the school hunk to a meal. Eat whatever you want in the school canteen." Gu Mengmeng patted her chest generously. Snake laughed coldly and pinched Gu Mengmeng's face. "You are really sincere." Gu Mengmeng's face was pinched into a bun. She mumbled, I just got employed and haven't received my salary yet." Snake smiled and said, "No need. Tonight, someone is going to cook for me. I am looking forward to it." Gu Mengmeng thought that this was good. She could save money for a meal. She was in a good mood. Snake ignored her and walked straight out. Gu Mengmeng instinctively followed behind him and entered the lift. She kept staring at her own work pass. It was so rare. But, didn't she apply for the position of HR? What the hell was the CEO's assistant? Was it printed wrong? Gu Mengmeng was a little confused. She wanted to go back and ask but realized that she was already in the lift with Snake. Ding! When the lift doors opened, they arrived at a clean and spacious open office. There were 4 tables in front of the lift and business elites in suits were seated on both sides. When they saw the lift doors open, they all stood up. Gu Mengmeng tugged at Lasna's arm. Don't press randomly. This is my first day here. Don't give me any trouble. This job is very important to me." Snake smiled and rubbed her head. "Yeah, I know. This job is very important to you. So I brought you here to please your boss." With that, Snake pulled Gu Mengmeng out of the lift. The elites in the workplace saluted and shouted in unison, "Hello, President. Chief, Referee." Gu Mengmeng stared at Snake in shock. Her brain had crashed and she could not function. Seeing this, the white fog came again. Gu Mengmeng knew that this meant the end of the 2nd episode. He turned back to look at the beast deity and asked, "Aren't you afraid of getting beaten up for being stuck at a place like this?" The beast deity rubbed his nose and smiled. "You've already slept for a long time. If you don't wake up soon, your 2 partners will go crazy." Gu Mengmeng accepted this reason. Patting his butt, he stood up and said, "Dad, pocket money." Chapter 752. Gu Mengmeng had gradually gotten used to the feeling of falling from a great height. She felt that in the modern world, roller coasters and pirate ships were all nothing to her. Slowly opening her eyes, she met Elvis's deep blue gaze. She smiled faintly and wanted to speak, but realized that her throat was a little dry. Before Gu Mengmeng could speak, Elvis had already kissed her. He held a mouthful of water in his mouth and dripped it into Gu Mengmeng's mouth, moisturizing her parched throat. After the water was gone, a lingering kiss followed. When Elvis released her lips, Gu Mengmeng asked, "How did you know I was thirsty?" Her voice was a little raspy. Gu Mengmeng felt that it was a unique characteristic. If she were to sing a heavy metal rock song now, it would be very good. But in Elvis and Lee's ears, this voice brought about a heart-wrenching feeling. Elvis gave another peck on Gu Mengmeng's lips, as if he had not had enough, before saying, "How do you think I fed you water during the 3 days and 2 nights you were asleep?" Gu Mengmeng's lips twitched as she looked at Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng blushed and gave a soft, "Oh." Elvis did not know that she was thirsty. He was just about to feed her water and she just happened to wake up. Stretching herself, Gu Mengmeng looked around and asked, "Where are we? How far are we from the sea?" There were only a few males at first and no one had the mood to cook. They would settle their meals while hunting to save time and head to the sea in case Wabi went into hibernation before they were done. Then, no one would be able to protect Gu Mengmeng. But now that Gu Mengmeng was awake, cooking became the most important task. There was nothing more serious than starving Gu Mengmeng. Leah held Gu Mengmeng's hand and leaned into Elvis's arms. He kissed Gu Mengmeng's face to comfort her, before saying, "I will go find something for you to eat." Oh, ever since they realized that she was especially sensitive when it came to relationships, Elvis and Leah started their unbridled closeness mode. They would tease her every now and then, making her feel as if her heart was about to go numb. She had clearly asked, "Where is this?" But his reply was a kiss. Wabi just watched them coldly from the sidelines. He didn't say a word as he stared fixedly at Gu Mengmeng, as if he was about to rush forward to interrogate her. That stare made Elvis bristle and he could not help but bare his teeth. Gu Mengmeng could even feel Elvis's muscles twitching. Was he going to blow up and fight with Wabi? Gu Mengmeng gently caressed Elvis's chest with her little hands and comforted him. "Hubby, it's been hard on you these 2 days while I was asleep." Elvis lost his temper after hearing Gu Mengmeng's soft voice. He lowered his head and met her eyes, leaving only warmth on his face. He kissed her little face and said, "It's not hard to guard you." Gu Mengmeng planted a kiss on Elvis's face, then smiled sweetly. Successfully pacified. Ye turning his head, he looked at Wabi and his expression turned cold. With a "bite me if you have the guts" expression, he asked, "What are you looking at?" Wabi replied, "So what if I'm looking at you?" According to the routine, Gu Mengmeng should respond with, "Come here, I'll tell you," before releasing his beast pressure and completely torturing Wabi. Chapter 753. Gu Mengmeng shrugged her shoulders in exasperation. "Snake doesn't like you staring at me like that." Wabi's eyes brightened. He immediately leaned forward, wanting to ask but refusing to admit it. "You are spouting nonsense. He didn't know I was staring at you when you went to meet the beast deity." Gu Mengmeng turned her head and pointed at the mark on the back of her neck. "What did you say just now?" "Say it again." Wabi stared at the lifelike mark, which had shrunk to the size of a palm. He was momentarily dazed. After a long pause, he muttered, "Could it be, his soul is still living in your body? You can sense his emotions and communicate with him? Then, can you ask him to come out and talk to me? Just one sentence. Even, punching me or glaring at me will do." Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing. Her expression was extremely nasty. "You actually believe such nonsense? How did you survive for the past 800 years? Wabi was taken aback. He was instantly enraged. His eyes narrowed into slits and his poisonous fangs dripped with venom. Gu Mengmeng stretched out her fair arm in front of Wabi. "You want to bite me? Here, bite me then." Wabi opened his mouth but still couldn't bite her. Her arm was too thin. It was not even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. If he bit her, it would break. If her arm broke, who knew how heartbroken that person would be? "Look at how you can't stand me and can't do anything to me. How are you like the legendary mighty Wabi? TSK, little shit, just accept your fate. You can't do anything to me. Little shit." Wabi repeated those 2 words through gritted teeth. His face was so black that ink could drip from it. Rolling his eyes, Wabi gave a sinister smile. Since ancient times, the male has to pay for the female's troubles. "I can't touch you, but I can challenge your partner. Guess if that stupid wolf and that coquettish fox of yours are enough to fill the gaps between my teeth." Gu Mengmeng shrugged and stood up from Elvis's arms. She bent down and smiled at Elvis. "Hubby, he said he wants to challenge you." Elvis sneered and stood up. He twisted his neck left and right as a form of warm-up. "That's great. This is a barren mountain and there's no need to be afraid of destruction. It's suitable for exercising." Wabi's eyes brightened as he looked at Gu Mengmeng. "Can we really fight?" Gu Mengmeng sat at the side drinking water and looked at Wabi. Why are you asking me? It's not like you're fighting me. After Snake left, Wabi had not met a suitable opponent for a long time. He was extremely dispirited after not battling for so long. On the other hand, Elvis was also very depressed. Ever since they were in the Snake King Valley, he had been feeling sullen and powerless. This evil fire had been pressing on his chest, but he could not find a suitable opportunity to vent it out. He was at the peak of the 5th rank. He should be able to take a beating. Both of them rubbed their palms together in anticipation, but Gu Mengmeng waved at Ian and said, "Hey, bro, do you want to join in the fun? WTO Wild Life and Death Edition, it should be quite exciting." Ian sat over with a flustered expression. He glanced at Gu Mengmeng and pointed at the two beasts who were ready to strike. Are we really going to let them fight? Aren't you afraid of getting into trouble? Chapter 754. When Leah returned, he saw the ground littered with debris and two exhausted males sprawled on the ground, looking like they were on their last breaths. He walked suspiciously over to Gu Mengmeng, who was calmly drinking from a cup of hot water. He looked at Ian, who looked as if he had seen a ghost, and could not understand the situation at all. He skewered the processed prey on the tree sap and then placed it over the fire to roast. As he roasted, he said, "I didn't bring a pot when I came out, so I'll have to trouble you to eat a roasted meal for the time being. I'll look for suitable ingredients on the way and dig a pot to bring along. I'll cook something for you that's easy to digest at night." Gu Mengmeng nodded as a form of agreement. She still had a faint smile on her face. Leah pointed at the two males who were sprawled on the ground, unable to transform back into human form. He asked, "These two, what happened?" Gu Mengmeng smacked her lips and smiled. The two of them just engaged in an unfriendly physical conversation. Leah was taken aback. Wabi challenged Elvis? Gu Mengmeng nodded as a form of reply. Lee's expression darkened. He asked with a cold gaze, "Who won?" Gu Mengmeng glanced at him. It should be considered a draw. Both of their injuries are not light and they look like they're half dead. Leah lifted his head. Since there's no clear victor, he can't join our family. Who? Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She then laughed. You can't be thinking that Wabi challenged Elvis to mate with me, right? Leah did not find it funny at all. He frowned. No. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. They just had nothing better to do and had a meaningless fight. Leah looked suspiciously at Elvis and then at Wabi. Only then did he calm down. That's good. At least he knows his place. Gu Mengmeng leaned into Lee's arms. She chuckled. Suppressing one's emotions for too long will cause one to become a pervert. What about you? Do you need to find an opponent to vent? I think Ian is a good choice. Both of you have similar skills and should be able to spar. Leah planted a kiss on Gu Mengmeng's forehead. Then, he smiled gently. This kind of violent and barbaric method is not suitable for me. If I want to release my stress, no one but you can do it. Lee's voice was light as a feather caressing Gu Mengmeng's heart. Every time he said a word, the feather would flutter, making Gu Mengmeng's heart itch. Gu Mengmeng gently pushed Leah away. She might not be the best in the beast world, but no one in the beast could beat her in the beast. Wabi was lying on his back. After being beaten up by Snake for 800 years, perhaps his combat power was not the best, but no one in the beast world could beat him in terms of endurance. After resting for such a long time, Wabi could already transform back into his human form. His face was bruised and swollen, but there was an inexplicable sense of comfort throughout his body. Wabi had broken 2 of Wabi's ribs. He could not transform into his human form for now. But this bout of venting had allowed him to release all the pent-up anger in his chest. Elvis had 2 of his ribs broken by Wabi. He could not transform into his human form for the time being. But this bout of venting had allowed all the pent-up anger in his chest to dissipate. Chapter 755. He looked at Gu Mengmeng with an exceptionally gentle gaze. Even a wolf's eyes could not conceal that tenderness. His female really understood him. However, Li's words had enlightened him. Compared to fighting with Wabiai, perhaps a battle with Gu Mengmeng would be more effective. Gu Mengmeng held Elvis's face in her hands. It was clearly a fierce wolf's face, but she did not feel the slightest bit afraid. Even if she stuck her hand into Elvis's mouth to count how many teeth he had, she would not feel the slightest bit nervous. She kissed Elvis. "The way you look at me is not pure. It's as if you want to eat me up." Elvis thought to himself, "You guessed it right. I really want to eat you up." Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis lightly. "All right, you just stay here and have a good rest today. We will not continue on our journey today. We will set off tomorrow when you are better." Elvis did not have any objections and just nodded. After all, during the 3 days that Gu Mengmeng was asleep, they had been traveling at a very fast pace. They had been waiting for Gu Mengmeng to wake up so that they could slow down and not tire her out. Gu Mengmeng walked to Wabiai's side and sat down. She gave him a faint smile. "How is it? My taste in men is not bad, right?" Wabiai snorted coldly. "That's all. If you had not interfered just now, he would not only have 2 broken ribs." Gu Mengmeng thought to herself, "Yes, if I had not interfered just now, there would be a bloody gash on your chest. You don't want the snake gallbladder anymore?" These 2 people were getting anxious as they fought, and they even started to use killing moves. TSK, they really don't know their limits. But Gu Mengmeng did not want to use these words to agitate them. After all, Gu Mengmeng had only wanted them to vent their frustrations from the start. Now that the effect had been achieved, why should she cause more trouble for them? Hence, Gu Mengmeng clicked her tongue. "Would it kill you to praise me?" But Wabiai was unyielding. "Bad taste is bad. I am not like those cowards who have been bewitched by you. You want me to flatter you against my will? Maybe in another 100 years. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and covered her mouth as she stared at Wabiai. It was only until Wabiai was starting to get goosebumps that she pointed at the back of her neck and said, "Don't forget, Snake is also my man." Although she did not mate in the beast world, but looking at Snake's attitude in the modern world, she probably could not escape from that time and space, so strictly speaking, this could not be considered a lie. Wabiai choked and his face turned red. He was speechless for a long time before he finally said, "You have good taste." Gu Mengmeng laughed out loud. "Io, 100 years is so short. It's like a snap of the fingers." Wabiai died at the age of 800. The next morning, the group prepared to set off. There was nothing much to pack and they only brought along 2 new high-quality furs that Leah had brought back from hunting yesterday, to be used as a cushion for Gu Mengmeng. Walking out of the wishing room, Gu Mengmeng looked up and chuckled. She exhaled and said, "I finally got rid of my little tail." Wabiai chuckled. "So this was your intention when you made me fight with Elvis yesterday?" Gu Mengmeng smiled without saying a word, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. "Even if I'm a fox borrowing the tiger's might, I should at least be arrogant a few times, right? Don't worry, my lonely old man who loves watching TV series will take care of me." Elvis and Leah were doubtful but they did not say much. Elvis looked at Wabiai and said in an unusually serious tone, "Help me take care of Xiao Meng. I will definitely return this favor in the future." But Wabiai snorted coldly and said disdainfully, "Your face is not enough to order me around. I am giving face to the one behind her neck." Elvis did not argue with Wabiai and just said sincerely, "No matter what, I am counting on you to take care of Xiao Meng." Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis and Li's neck and kissed them again. Then, she hugged Fei Rui and walked towards the sea. As she walked, she shouted, "Let's go, little shit." Digression. Chapter 757. After Gu Mengmeng, Fei Rui and Wabiai disappeared into the sea, Leah and Elvis exchanged a look. Leah did not ask anything and Elvis did not say anything either. On the other side, Gu Mengmeng didn't feel any shortness of breath after entering the bottom of the sea. The kiss of the beast deity was a good item. Perhaps this was a cheat that the beast deity had given his messenger. After entering the sea, Fei Rui and Wabiai kept staring at Gu Mengmeng, as if worried that she would feel uncomfortable in the seawater. Then, they realized that Gu Mengmeng was like a joyful weight diving into the depths of the sea. They were filled with curiosity towards the brightly colored undeveloped fishes and even broke off 2 pieces of coral to stick on their heads, asking Fei Rui if she looked like a little dragon man. After Fei Rui entered the water, he transformed into a fish tail and his upper body was naked. In his human form, he looked soft and cute, but in his half-beast form, he gave off the vibe of a semi-mature male god. He had the vibe of a semi-mature male god in college, no, high school, who knew how to play basketball, play guitar, and ride a bicycle to and from school in a white shirt and jeans. Yes, in high school, no older. If she only looked at his face, she would say he was in junior high school. But this figure, even if a junior high school boy stayed in the gym every day, he still wouldn't be able to develop such well-defined muscles. Gu Mengmeng's demonic claws reached towards Fei Rui's fishtail and she smiled slyly. Can I touch it? Before Fei Rui could reply, Gu Mengmeng's claws were already on him. Wow! It was the tail of the legendary mermaid. The scales were bright and neat, reflecting the sunlight filtered by the sea, suffused with a gorgeous and gentle halo. Speaking of flaws. TSK, why was it a male? Her breasts are also too flat, affecting her beauty. Poor review. Although Gu Mengmeng only touched him once, when she looked up, she saw that Fei Rui's face was already as red as a monkey's butt. She instantly felt a sense of guilt, as if she had accidentally harmed the flower of her country. But she was really just curious. She did not know that the sensitive spot of a fish was its tail. Retracting her numb hand, Gu Mengmeng laughed dryly. I won't touch anymore. Let's go. Aren't you in a hurry to save your sister? Thinking of his little sister, Fei Rui's face darkened. He nodded and swam forward. After swimming for a while, he turned back and realized that Gu Mengmeng had been left far behind. He had already slowed down, but she still couldn't catch up. Her swimming posture was so strange. Although it looked good, wasn't it too slow? Gu Mengmeng looked at Fei Rui's confused face and sighed silently in her heart. She helplessly hooked her arms around Wabiai's neck and smiled. Brother, give me a lift. On what basis? Wabiai glared at Gu Mengmeng coldly. Gu Mengmeng turned her head and revealed the mark on the back of her neck. Is this enough? Wabiai gritted his teeth. He tucked Gu Mengmeng under his armpit with one hand and carried Gu Mengmeng like he was carrying luggage. He chased after Fei Rui in his half-beast form without saying a word. To be honest, the speed at which the fish and the snake moved in the water was really King ridiculous. It was like sitting on the underwater version of a roller coaster, and it was the version without the safety belt. It was really King exciting. Could it be that he was already dead? Or perhaps, Fei Rui, do you know what exactly is the treasure of the giant fish clan? Gu Mengmeng could vaguely smell a conspiracy. Moreover, it was a familiar formula and a familiar smell. Fei Rui shook his head. I don't know. We don't have much contact with the giant fish clan. The corners of Gu Mengmeng's lips curled up. She chuckled and continued asking, then how did the giant fish clan determine that your sister stole their treasures? You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.